Mario Tennis Fever feels like it crawled out of the GameCube era and somehow landed on modern hardware. Not just because it's colorful or loud or stuffed with gimmicks, but because of its attitude. This is a game that clearly believes couch multiplayer still matters, that 4 friends yelling at the same screen still matters, that chaos, unfairness, and laughter are valid design goals. At its absolute best, Mario Tennis Fever is exactly that. A ridiculous, over-the-top tennis game that shines brightest when everyone is sitting in the same room, trash-talking, misplaying shots, and laughing at the nonsense unfolding on the screen. And for the first time in a very long time, Camelot has released a Mario Tennis game that actually feels finished at launch. There's a huge character roster, a ton of modes, loads of unlockables, and more mechanical gimmicks than any entry before it. Unfortunately, more content does not automatically mean better content. Because while Mario Tennis Fever finally delivers a feature-complete package, it once again stumbles in the one area that keeps holding the series back: single player. The adventure mode is short, shallow, and creatively flat. It exists but barely justifies itself. What you're left with is a game that excels in short, energetic multiplayer sessions, thanks to responsive controls and outrageous abilities, but struggles to maintain momentum once the novelty wears off. The reason Fever feels so nostalgic is intentional. Camelot clearly looked back at Mario Power Tennis on the GameCube and said, "Let's do that again." Not the restrained, competitive tone of Mario Tennis Aces, but the wild party-first identity that turns tennis into something barely recognizable. This is not a game trying to simulate tennis skill. It's a game trying to create moments, big swings, big reversals, big laughs. And everything in Fever is built around that philosophy. The centerpiece of Mario Tennis Fever is the introduction of Fever Rackets. There are 30 of them, and each one fundamentally alters how a match plays out. Every racket comes with its own special ability that activates once your fever gauge fills and you successfully trigger a fever shot. Some of these abilities are aggressively offensive. One racket drops a spinning fireball straight out of Super Mario Bros. Onto your opponent's side of the court. Others flood the screen with ink, distort visibility, or aggressively control space. Some rackets lean defensive, creating shadow clones of your character to cover more ground or provide temporary buffs that alter how your shots behave for a limited time. The sheer variety here is impressive. Matches feel genuinely different depending on which rackets are in play, and experimenting with them is one of Fever's strongest hooks. What makes Fever Rackets especially interesting is how they deepen the psychological side of tennis. When you drop a hazard onto the court, both players immediately start thinking ahead. If I place ice on one section of the court, you know I want to aim there next. But now that you know that, maybe I'll fake you out and go somewhere else instead. That constant mental back and forth is already part of tennis, and Fever Rackets amplify it by changing the environment itself. Camelot has also built in subtle balancing mechanics. Many offensive fever effects do not activate immediately. Instead, they trigger only once the ball hits the ground. leading to tense exchanges where both players desperately try to prevent that bounce. This creates moments where power feels earned instead of free. Triggering a fever shot is risky because a poorly timed one can be sent straight back at you. Not all rackets are created equal. Some are clearly stronger than others, at least at first glance. The bullet bill racket, for example, launches the ball at ridiculous speed and initially feels unstoppable. But once you learn to counter it by playing closer to the net, its dominance fades. When both players use it, matches devolve into absurdly fast rallies that usually end with someone getting nailed point blank. It's hilarious, but not exactly strategic. This experimentation is so fun that it's genuinely frustrating there's no option to randomly assign fever rackets. You can randomize characters and courts, but not rackets. That feels like a glaring omission, and one that would massively increase replayability. In doubles, things get even messier. With 4 fever rackets active, courts can become completely overwhelmed with hazards. Fire, mud, ice, and visual clutter pile up fast. At that point, fever stops feeling skill-based and starts feeling luck-driven. Health depletion can feel unavoidable, especially when even your partner's fever shot can damage you. This isn't necessarily a flaw, but it is a deliberate shift. Fever fully embraces its identity as a party game, whereas Mario Tennis Aces lean towards something closer to a competitive action title. To compensate for the madness, the actual tennis mechanics are noticeably simplified. The game plays slightly slower, shots feel floatier, the court is a bit smaller, diving at the last second is more forgiving. It's easy to see why this choice was made. Combining Ace's high speed, high precision gameplay with Fever's chaos would likely be overwhelming. Still, if you loved Aces for its high skill ceiling, this feels like a step back. Fever is far more welcoming to newcomers, but it sacrifices depth in the process. That said, the core controls still feel excellent. Anticipating a shot, getting into position, and unleashing a fully charged topspin return still feels satisfying. Camelot has been refining this formula for decades, and it shows. Mario Tennis Fever boasts the largest character roster the series has ever seen, with 38 playable characters, each with their own stats and quirks. Newcomers like Baby Waluigi have already become online favorites, though personal preferences will vary. I found myself gravitating toward Baby Wario, whose charged topspin gives strong control over rallies. Visually, the character models are the standout. Facial animations are expressive, clothing textures are detailed, and small touches like Mario's mustache or Luigi's fabric textures stand out. However, for a Switch 2 exclusive, it doesn't feel like a major leap forward. The art style is pleasant but familiar. The game targets 60 frames per second and mostly holds it, though I did notice brief dips in split-screen doubles before serves. One thing Fever absolutely gets right is progression. Characters, rackets, courts, and costumes are unlocked through challenges, match milestones, and adventure mode progress. Importantly, this progression is not tied exclusively to online play. That classic offline-focused unlock system feels refreshing. especially compared to recent Mario sports titles. Unfortunately, that goodwill takes a hit the moment you step into adventure mode. If single player is your main reason for buying Mario Tennis Fever, this is where expectations need to be lowered. The story revolves around Mario and friends being turned into babies, forcing Mario to relearn tennis to save everyone. It starts strong, with genuinely well-directed cutscenes that show Camelot's continued talent for animation. But once gameplay begins, the cracks appear immediately. The first 90 minutes of this roughly 3.5-hour campaign are spent in a tennis academy filled with painfully slow tutorials. You walk through basic mechanics, forced into simplistic minigames, and ask questions that barely qualify as quizzes. It's clearly designed for very young players, and it shows. The writing is flat, the humor is minimal, and the mode feels more like an extended onboarding process than an adventure. Once you leave the academy, the world map is shockingly small. There are a handful of boss encounters and light puzzle elements, but very few actual tennis matches. Just as things start to feel like they might open up, the mode ends. Tournament mode exists, but this is one of its weakest implementations. The addition of a constantly talking announcer quickly becomes unbearable. Hearing commentary on every single shot grows exhausting fast. And while it can be disabled elsewhere, it is mandatory here and in adventure mode. The standout single-player offering is Trial Towers. This mode presents short, focused challenges with unique rule sets. One match might give you infinite fever gauge, while another puts baby characters against a massive Bowser. These challenges are fun, creative, and actually rewarding to master. Ironically, Trial Towers highlights exactly what adventure mode should have been. Multiplayer is where Mario Tennis Fever truly comes alive. Local play is flexible. Online ranked matches are split between singles and doubles, and you can choose whether to include Fever Rackets or play without them. Online performance is smooth and ranking progression is clear, with seasonal resets encouraging repeat play. Special modes like Ring Shot, Pinball Courts, and Wonder Effect stages provide variety, though many of them wear out their welcome quickly. I consistently found myself returning to standard tennis matches where the game feels most balanced. Mario Tennis Fever succeeds at being a loud, chaotic, approachable party game. The Fever Rackets are inventive, the controls are sharp, and the multiplayer experience is undeniably fun in short sessions. But its single-player content is weak. Its depth doesn't sustain long-term engagement, and many modes feel like distractions rather than meaningful additions. So yeah, Mario Tennis Fever is a 6 out of 10. It's enjoyable, but fleeting. Mario Tennis Fever is at its best when you treat it like a side dish, not the main course. It's a game you boot up for a few matches with friends, laugh at the chaos, and move on. It doesn't have the staying power of Nintendo's strongest multiplayer titles, but it delivers enough to justify its existence. It has the soul of a GameCube game, for better and for worse. If you enjoyed this review, give the video a like and subscribe for more honest takes on game reviews. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Mario Tennis entry is, and whether Fever clicked for you or wore out its welcome. That's it from me. I'll see you all in the next one.